and rolling. Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of EFL Teacher Talk with Sean G. I am Sean Gallagher, your host this evening on October 27th, 2018. It's great to see everybody here today. I was racking my brain about a good topic, had several I was thinking of, and I decided to talk about the one thing that probably everybody does actually want to talk about, which is money and your salary and teacher's salary in general. I figured everybody can use this discussion, whether you're a teacher or a school owner or a manager or whatever. Everybody kind of wants to talk about money, but it's a little bit taboo. Not a lot of people like to talk about it. So I thought, hey, we should do a show about money. So I researched online. I had some notes from a couple of teacher management meetings that I attended earlier in the year. And I feel like I have a pretty good handle on, factors that will affect teacher's salary, either raising it or lowering it, and also kind of what some modern salary ranges are for both teachers and also kind of school management type of position. So if you're interested in learning more about money and what goes in your pocket at the end of the day, please check out the rest of the show. And I have made a cute little list over here. This is new. This is new too up here. I'm experimenting with a little new format. But let's jump right into it here. So what will affect your salary as an EFL teacher? So there are several factors that will affect your salary. I think, and I've made a list of them right over here. I think number one point, I think there's definitely, it seems like there's some difference between salaries that are offered to native or non-native English speakers. Now I know it seems like, and I know that there's kind of like a third category in there, right? I think a non-native English speaker, maybe this is somebody who comes from a country where clearly English is not one of the national languages. So maybe this might be a guy from Sweden who happens to get a job as an English teacher. Actually, I know a guy who's doing this, and he's a very nice guy. He's a very nice teacher. But so I think that would be a non-native English speaker maybe getting a job. I know that there are some countries out there where English is one of the official languages, but there are some other languages that are official languages as well. It seems like in these countries, it's not a monolingual country like, let's say, the USA is, or Canada, or Great Britain. It seems like, anyway, so there's a little bit of play in there, right? Native, or, maybe one of these countries where English is one of the native languages, and then a non-native English speaking teacher. Obviously, the higher, I think the closest you get to English being your mother tongue, coming from a monolingual country like the US, or, Australia or Canada, or, the UK or whatever, it seems like the higher your salary base rate will be. And I'm not here to debate whether that's right or wrong or whatever. I'm just saying that this is probably one of the, factors that's going to affect a salary that you're offered. Number two, I think another thing to consider is, especially recently, are you applying for a preschool, let's say an international preschool teaching position, or a straight up Kiowa teaching position? Remember, Kiowa is like, an English language school, or maybe one of these other types of schools. I think in the other categories, I have something like teaching at a junior high school or a high school, or maybe Semmongako, the two-year vocational schools, or a university. These are kind of the others. It seems like what kind of school you're applying to work at will affect the salary that they're able to offer you. It seems like some of the lowest salaries I'm seeing right now are at the Kiowa level. And I think some of the moderate salaries seem to be at the preschool. It seems like people do a little bit better up there with their salaries. I think that's mainly because the business model is a little bit better for the international preschools right now. And then, of course, if you can get into one of these private junior high schools or high schools, or university teaching job, it tends your pay tends to go up a little bit better. Depending, if you can get into one of those positions, which are usually hard to find. Usually you have to kind of be introduced into one of those. You might be able to be lucky to find one on a jobs board somewhere. Okay, going down the list. Number three, I think another thing to consider when you're thinking about your salary is, are you working for a business, a for-profit business, or are you working for a public school that might get its funding directly from the government? This will affect your salary, both ways. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but it will affect the school's ability to pay you. It seems like maybe there's a wider range in the for-profit, and it seems like with the public funding schools that it seems like it's pretty much set. Like whoever's hiring you doesn't really have a whole lot of discretion to move you up or down the pay grade. I think another thing. Okay, so moving on to number 4. I think within the for-profit. So if you go back to number 3 up here, boom. Within the for-profit, are you working for a big corporation, a large corporation, like let's say Eon or Berlitz or one of these schools, or are you working for a smaller school? Again, I think this will affect the salary that you might be offered. Number 5 up here, I originally had number 5 listed as a Japanese-owned school versus a foreign-owned school. I decided to toss that language, and I went instead with, does the school you work at, does the management, do the owners, do they have like a tenure-based paradigm of management, or is it a skill-based, like results-based paradigm of management? At my school, I'm very much a skill-based. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a for-profit business owner. Everything, my ability to pay the teachers is based on my teachers' ability to generate value for the school. So that's really how I think about it. But not everybody thinks like this. It seems, especially, sometimes it seems like in some of the Japanese-owned schools that people have this old idea of, you've been here X number of years, so you're going to move up the pay grade, based on your, seniority within the company, maybe rather than the results that you're bringing back to the company. I think the good news here is it seems like as we get further along into the future, it seems like more and more schools are moving over to this skill-based model, but it seems like it's still kind of a mixed bag. Anyway, something to consider when you're thinking about your salary at the school that you're working for. What model does your owner, does the manager use? Is it, again, is it something that's skill-based, or is it more of like this kind of old-fashioned tenure-based idea? Another thing that will affect the salary that you might be offered by a school is, of course, your years of experience. This is kind of a no-brainer. I think everybody kind of gets this. If you have no experience, you're going to get bumped down a little lower on the pay. There might be a range of what a school might be able to offer you. You're going to be probably down there at that lower end if you don't have a lot of experience. If you got a moderate amount of experience, you might be in the middle. If you have several years of experience, you might be towards the top of that. I think it is possible to have too many years of experience as an EFL teacher as well too. I know that when I'm getting resumes, and I look for a resume, and I see a resume for a guy that he's been working as an EFL teacher, like just as a teacher for 12 years or something. I'm actually scares me a little bit. Like, why is this guy still just working as a teacher? Why isn't he working as a manager? After 12 years, I would hope to see some sort of growth in terms of this person's skill set. And I'm not seeing any managerial experience on their thing. So anyway, I think years of experience is good up to a certain point, and then it seems like you kind of hit a ceiling. And then I think as you go further out on it, it seems like more years might actually be bad. If you really get out there on the far end of the spectrum, like some people are. Okay, moving down to number 7, a factor that will affect your teaching salary that is offered to you is a degree. Number 1, do you have a degree? I think most people do. Some people don't. And obviously, if you don't have a degree, you can expect to be at the very, very lowest end of the pay grade in an EFL teacher salary. So you should really go get your degree. If you don't have a degree, I think you shouldn't be an EFL if you don't have a degree or if you're not, kind of working towards a degree. That's my personal advice to everybody out there. I think everybody watching this probably does have a degree, but if you don't, I would say go get your degree and, pick up the teaching skills later. You'll just be in a much stronger position like for your life. So there's that. Anyway, so degree, there's nothing. There's maybe a 4-year degree or a BA. I believe in the UK it's a 3-year university degree. But anyway, university graduate degree. Graduating from a university, not a graduate degree. Those are different. I think a step up from that might be having a degree and also having some sort of TEFL certificate. Seems like, maybe that's not going to really move the needle so much on the salary that you're offered. I think that might help you get a job offer rather than not getting a job offer, but I don't know, how much a TEFL certificate or a CELTA certificate is going to move the needle there. And then the last thing is, do you have a teaching license? So this goes back to our earlier point up here, number 2, about, preschool versus eikaiwa. I know that at my, under one roof here at my school, we have both programs, and I know we do have a bonus system in place for people who have their teaching licenses. So I think, and I know that there are some other schools that do this as well. So I think having a teaching license is definitely a good way to move up the pay scale. And then kind of here we go, number 8 right here. This is kind of, I think, what everybody is really interested in. Again, the way I collected these numbers, I collected these numbers from maybe about 7 or 8 different data points. This is by no means a comprehensive study of eikaiwa salaries within the country, but I think it's pretty close. I think if somebody did go down and crunch down the numbers, that I would be very close with these numbers right here. So it seems like for a regular EFL teaching salary, it seems like the range goes all the way down to 23,000. I can't even say it in English. That's weird. Like niju-san per month, up to, like, if you go way on the top of the scale here, it looks like sanjugo might be kind of where you're going to max out as a teacher. And then if you're going to bump up into the management ranks, it seems like the management scale, from what I could find, was about, starting at about sanju-ni, all the way up to goju per month. And the goju per month, I only know of one of those, and that's a very nice school in Osaka. The guy that runs it is a very sharp guy. I won't say his name, but anyway, he pays his people very well, and so that's that. So yeah, it seems like those are I think pretty good ballpark ranges for the different types of positions out there. And then number 9, I would say, going forward, if you want to get a higher salary, and then the thing is, not everybody wants a higher salary. And this is, I found it, as a school owner, I think the fascinating thing for me is not everybody wants a higher salary. I have some people who have worked for me or who are working for me right now who are very, very good at negotiating, but they'll negotiate the things that are important to them. So, for example, maybe teaching a little bit less per week, less teaching hours per week. They want more prep time per week. Oh, I want an extra vacation day here and there. There are some teachers who really value quality of life, and that's something that, as a teacher, I think you should consider. And I think teachers should be really proactive about telling what's valuable to them to their schools, because your school wants to give you what's valuable. If you're a valuable team member, the school wants to make you happy. I guarantee you, like, the school wants to, give you things that you find valuable. So if you think time off is more valuable, I would say that, tell them that. But anyway, so mainly we're talking about salaries. So anyway, there are ways to negotiate for more without it necessarily being money. And who knows, maybe some schools are able to give these other things more readily than they are able to give money. So just something to consider there. But anyway, so number 9, just in dealing with your salary or negotiating with your school, or whenever you're trying to ask for something more, I think it's really important to go back to these other points up here and really kind of know who you work for. Because if you work, let's say you work for a public school, that's getting public funding, they probably have some formula, and there's very, very little range for them to, maybe give you more or less money. It's pretty much you're going to kind of get whatever the range is that says on the paper. So that's why I think know who you work for is very, very important. Because if you work for, let's say, a school like mine, now that I'm of the mindset that I would love to pay people in my school more money, because if I'm paying them more money, it means that they're delivering higher value, services to the school. They're delivering like a ton of value to the school. So that's really the way I think about it. And that's as a for-profit small school that has a skill-based, management ideology, and I think, so it's important to know who you work for, because if you work for one of these smaller businesses who are very results-based, very skill-based, I think you do really have a lot of power, like the employees, the teachers. You guys really do have a lot of power, or if you wanted to increase your salary or maybe your working conditions, you wanted to make those better, it'd be fairly easy to do that as long as you're providing, more services that are valuable to the school. So that's kind of that. So how did we do? How long did we go? Oh God, we went to 16 minutes. I was trying to keep this to 10. But anyway, so that is it for this week on October 27th. Everybody have a safe Halloween out there. If you go out, make sure you get a taxi home and everybody be safe and everything. And until next week, have a great week of teaching. And if anybody has any questions, comments, suggestions, of course, you can leave them on the comment section below. Also, if you have any requests for any topics that I'm going to cover in the future, I'm always open to hearing ideas for new topics. So thanks again for tuning in this week, and signing off for now. Thanks. Bye. End recording. Stop recording.